My wife and I married when we were both 21. She didn't have any kids and neither of us knew what career path we wanted. But we were in love. Even after 30 years of marriage, we were inseparable. And I never thought my wife's girls' night out would change everything. We made it through everything, life through with us together, the good times, the bad times and everything in between, but nothing could prepare me for what happened when she went out with her girlfriends. One night I trusted her. I thought she stayed faithful, even if she was going to spend part of the night away from me. As time went on, we had 2 kids. My wife became a pharmacy technician and I became an auto mechanic, and we had a good life. And despite the occasional argument, our marriage was strong as ever until that faithful night out. My wife was the typical soccer mom, taking the kids to their soccer games when I wasn't able to and being supportive of our family. We never had a dead bedroom. Intimacy was never ever a problem. And I thought my wife was the most loyal woman alive, only because she was never out of place. And most of the time when she wasn't at work, she was with the kids, but she did participate in the occasional girls' night out, and I didn't care because of how busy she was with the kids and taking care of the family. Now, the kids are older and on their own. We have 2 boys and they were both born within 2 years of each other. They moved out a couple of months ago. We got them an apartment and they both have jobs. That's really when I saw my wife's behavior shift. At first, I thought nothing of it. She went out with her girlfriends more often, but I didn't think much of it because I knew the stress of being an empty nester was real, and occasionally she just wanted to let off some steam. Sometimes she would call me while I was at work, not text, but call me and tell me she was going to the gym or going out with her girlfriends. I didn't think anything of it. I trusted her, but one night she came home late. She has never come home this late. And when she finally came home, it was after 3. Amy confronted her right away. And her response was, "We got carried away with the time," and she apologized, and I thought her apology was genuine. So fast forward a few weeks and one of our sons called me and said my wife was supposed to come pick him up and take him to get his car. He had some work done on it. I asked my son, "Did you call your mother?" He said to me, "I called and sent her a few text messages." I found that odd because every time my wife had to take my son somewhere, she was there. If I couldn't take them, my sons had one car. It was an older car that had some issues. It was drive, but had issues from time to time. They could have used an Uber, but that would be expensive for them to use all the time. But this absence of hers, this time, was concerning because she didn't return my son's call or text messages, and she didn't return my calls or text messages. So I left work and went to pick up my son, took him to get his car and followed him to make sure he got home. When I was done, my wife called and gave me an excuse that she was going to another store to cover for another pharmacy technician. I said, "Why didn't you just call us and tell us that I told her our son and me called you and you didn't return any of our calls or text messages?" I basically let her have it. She apologized and said she must have spent it out right then. And there, I asked if everything was okay with her. She said nothing was wrong, but I knew something was off about her. Ever since the boys left the nest, she was a tad bit different. I decided to pay more attention. So as time goes on, she starts to hang out with her girlfriends more and more. I didn't say anything. I just kept observing, and she was coming home later and later. And that's when I started planning some financial moves. One night, I checked our bank account and saw a charge for a hotel. When I asked her about it, you know what she told me? She said one of her girlfriends didn't have money for a hotel. So she loaned her the money. I asked who this girlfriend was, but she wouldn't tell me. But I knew all of her girlfriends are married, or at least that's what I was told a few years ago. So the next day, my gut was telling me to start moving money around, and that's what I did. I opened up 2 more bank accounts, a savings and a checking, to which I moved my direct deposit one night while she was asleep. I put a GPS tracker on her car and monitored it for the first week. She was where she said she was supposed to be. Then one night, she said she was going to hang out with the girls. She even told me where she was going to be. So with that said, when she left, I told her to have a good time, and I told her I was going to watch a movie and probably go to bed. About an hour goes by. I get in my car and travel to where the GPS tracker said she would be. Lo and behold, I see her car outside the bar. She said she was going to be, but she didn't stay at the bar. She ended up going to another bar about 15 minutes away. I followed her to the bar and I see her get out of her car and walk in. So I decided to park my car around the corner and watch from a distance. Then that's when it happened. I saw my wife come out of the bar holding hands with the guy. That's when I took out my phone and started recording, and then they got to his car and started kissing, and my phone is still recording. They got into his car and went to a hotel about 5 minutes away from the bar. I waited for them to get out and they walked up to the hotel hand in hand and kissing. And I have all of this recorded on my phone, and it's about 11 p.m. After I saw them walk in, I went back home, tired and exhausted. I managed to pack some things up and put them into my car. I wasn't leaving just yet. I didn't want her to know anything. Not until I wanted her to. I wasn't going to tell my sons yet either. I wanted to make sure I had all the evidence I needed and then tell them of their mother's betrayal. So my wife came strolling in about 4 a.m. Yep, 4 in the morning, I was asleep. I heard her walk into the bedroom and I went right back to sleep. Later in the morning I got up, went to work and didn't say anything to my wife, made an appointment to talk to an attorney later that day, and called my brother to see if he could let me crash at his place for a while. And of course, he asked why I sent him the video clips from my phone. I could hear the sadness in his voice when he called after receiving those clips. So we both came up with a plan to move most of my things while she is at work and then inform the boys only after the divorce. After leaving work, I met with an attorney and found out that here in North Carolina, adultery is a crime, a Class 2 misdemeanor to be exact. I didn't know that my attorney also told me that my wife may not be eligible for alimony, but it was entirely up to the judge. I told my attorney to go ahead and file for divorce on the grounds of adultery. That night, my brother came over while my wife was still at work and packed up most of my things and planned to take them over to his place. I didn't expect my wife to come home until after 7 p.m. So I have time to get quite a few things ready. My brother finally takes some of my things to his place, and at about 7:30-ish, my wife comes home and asked me how my day was. I told her it was busy and productive. To my surprise, she wasn't going anywhere this evening and asked me, did I want to watch a movie with her? I said sure. And we did. The next morning, she left before me. That was my opportunity to go. I took the rest of my things, made a nice note for the ex-wife and prepared a USB stick for her viewing pleasure. So while I'm at my brother's place, she never once reached out, never. So I assumed she viewed the USB drive with the video evidence. After a couple of days, I got an answer from her lawyer telling me she is not contesting anything and that we will have a hearing within a few weeks. She is asking for the house, and I am contesting that my lawyer went back to her lawyer and said we will split it at the divorce hearing. It was quick and painless. My boys were there and it was really heartbreaking for them. And I never showed them the video. I didn't have to pay any alimony. And I did not lose any part of my retirement, but we have to sell the house to split the equity. We ended up selling the house. 3 months later, I keep in touch with my boys almost daily, and they both have told me they haven't talked to their mother since the divorce, which is approaching 4 months. I have since acquired my own place. I know people will say why not reconcile? But I am 52 years old and I am not trying to reconcile with the woman who is lying about girls' night and coming home to me. I am not going to waste any more years in this marriage. I can't go back to that. I would never be able to trust her. Thank you, Tony, for sharing my story. I really appreciate it.